What's up, everybody? Small, nefarious, spiny land mammal coming at you here. And today we are going to talk about what is below me right now at complete random. It's time for the long-term review of the Indian Scout. Indian Scout? Wait, when did you get an Indian Scout? Well, some of my eagle-eyed and attentive listening subscribers will know that we actually did some trading and some dealing and some wheeling and some crazy things, and that's how we ended up with the three motorcycles that we have now: the Chieftain, the CX 500, and also the Indian Scout, which is technically my wife's Indian Scout. So I don't really ride this one very often, so it only has 2,152 miles on it. However, I will say that I have actually put all the mileage on this one, as my wife is still recovering from some health issues that has kept her from riding for some time, but she is recovering and will be returning to the wind soon. So that's the good news. So at any rate, let's start with this episode is brought to you by AGV Sport USA, gear makers of fine gear by riders for riders. Today we are featuring the Mayhem Glove, the Palomar leather jacket, and the super alloy jeans. Unlike the Metro jeans, which I really like as well, these actually have the knee protection in them from the showroom floor. So I've got all those on today. And thank you once again to AGV Sport USA for supplying us with the gear to keep us safe. And also Law Tigers of Oklahoma and AMSOIL as well. Doug Crawford at USA Synthetics, keeping our machines protected inside while Law Tigers protects us in the courtroom. At any rate, so the Indian Scout, a wonderful motorcycle. Many of you have seen many different reviews. Hey, Popo. Anyway, many of you have seen many different reviews, and I've actually covered the Scout quite a bit. I got to ride one of these bad boys as soon as they came out back in 2015, and I was really impressed with it back then. Of course, back then I was a little bit more naive. I didn't have as much riding experience as I do now. And of course, I actually stated that I liked my Sportster better because it had a little bit more power and some other things. Of course, I have to say that my Sportster was not equal to what we have out of the box from the factory right here. So I will say that over time, and after many more bikes rode, I've come to respect the Scout quite a bit more than the Sportster. For Sportster money, you get 1133cc liquid-cooled engine producing 100 horsepower. You get 3 inches of suspension travel, which is about an inch more than most of your Sportster models, with the exception of the Roadster. You get a 3.3-ish gallon to 3.5-ish gallon gas tank, somewhere in there. I think it's actually 3.3. So it's still about the same size gas tank, but it's that more walnut shape versus the peanut style, giving you a little bit wider motorcycle. But you also get one of the shortest seat heights and a kind of a nice narrow frame for newer riders and for shorter riders on this machine. Now, I will say, I don't know if you can see that, but you'll notice it's a black seat on this particular bike right now, and these things almost all come with brown. This is a 2019 model. Now, what is the difference in this seat? Well, this is actually the extended reach seat. I installed this on here. My wife has the reduced reach seat, and we actually still have the stock seat. So we have all 3 seats for this thing. And I have to say that being at 6 foot tall with a 32-inch inseam, I prefer the extended reach seat, because I think the Scout, after a couple of times with the stock setup, you know, whenever you're riding it out of the dealership, whenever you're going about doing your 20-minute, 30-minute ride reviews, those are good indicators, but they're not true indicators. First off, you don't know exactly how it's going to be on a long trip. You know what it's going to be around bombing a town, which is great, and this bike is great at bombing around through the town. It's very agile. It feels very lightweight. It's 560 pounds. Most people will call that a very heavy motorcycle, but in all reality, the way it weighs or wears the weight so low on this frame, It does not feel anywhere near 560 pounds. You pick up a Sportster, you're picking up a motorcycle, and it weighs the same as this one. You pick up this one, and it doesn't take very much to get it off of its side stand, and its center line's right up. Much better than any Sportster that I've ever been on. So, you look at the weight distribution, you look at the way this handles itself, you look at the nice low seat that comes with it automatically, and you look at kind of the reduced reach package altogether. I mean, this is not a reduced reach in any way. Everything else is stock. The handlebar placement is stock, and the foot peg position right now is stock as well. The only thing different is the extended reach seat, giving me an extra inch and a half or so. And that's the only difference you got here. And it does make a world of difference, because after a couple hours, and I will say that this bike will be the limiter in your group. Do not be the limiter in your group. If everybody else is on a massive touring bike and they're capable of 400 miles, don't hold them back, because this bad boy is only going to get maybe to 150 before it really needs gas. Average, it turns on the light into the 120s, 130s, and really desperately needs fuel by 150. While all your compadres are capable of going double that distance, they're going to give you a nickname. Heck, back in my Harley days, I remember we had a guy that was always riding a Sportster 72 with that little 2.1 gallon gas tank, and he earned the name Peanut, because he always needed gas at 90 miles. We never could get that far out of town before he's sitting there pointing at the tank screaming, "Fuel, fuel, fuel." Don't do that to your friends. If they got the bigger touring bikes, let them be. Ride with them around the city, ride with them places. Don't volunteer to go on a 4, 5, 6 hour ride, because you're going to hold everybody back, and they're going to give you bad looks and give you bad names. Peanut never recovered. He got a road glide. He's still Peanut. He tried to name himself Sharky McSharkface or something crazy like that. I don't remember. He stayed Peanut. Poor guy. That's what you get whenever you buy something that just doesn't have the fuel mileage. So at any rate, back to the Scout here. Not a bad bike for a decent little 2-hour trip or so, which is about as much as you're going to get with the fuel consumption. But if you're in stock format at my height, you're going to get off this thing and you're going to need a stretch. It is nowhere near as uncomfortable as, say, the Ninja 636R that I've been on for that time period, for the Ninja 300 I was on in that time period, and some other motorcycles that I've been on where I literally could not get out of a locked, almost bent over position with both legs because of how locked up I was getting off of those. This one you can shake yourself out a lot better and get going better. But it's still going to be kind of uncomfortable over the long haul. I will say that for me to have this bike set up a little bit better, I would probably want to add some risers, get the handlebars up a little bit more to about this position. I mean, it's about a good 3 inches taller. And then get these foot pegs up a little bit further than what they are here, because the stock foot peg position is a little short for me as well. And that's not really a big deal when you're using this machine to bomb around town and enjoy, you know, just a cruise, just a hop to the restaurant, just a hop to your friend's house. Doing hopping on this bike is what this bike can do really well. The horsepower, the acceleration, everything it's got that it offers you, the 6-speed transmission, the smoothness of the power band. The easier clutch. Yes, it is a little bit harder pull than some others, but it isn't too terribly bad at all. This bike here delivers so much in-city performance and light-to-light performance, and you can embarrass some big twins with it for dang sure. It's peppy. It's wonderful. No, it's not as fast as the Night Rod from Harley, which has a similar displacement coming out of the box. Those older Night Rods and even the newer ones that came out with the 1250 are quite a bit faster than this machine, but they lack the 6th gear, and this one has it, and they lacked some of the comforts that this bike has. And to be honest, the 3-inch suspension, you know, after riding around with it, this is something I don't really mind Indian putting out. I know everybody will say, well, they have higher quality frames. They have the monoshocks on the Touring. They have comfortable this. They have longer suspension travel on Touring. They do this, they do that, they do that. Well, that makes perfect sense for a large touring model motorcycle. It really does. It makes perfect sense for those. And that's because people are going to be on those machines all day long. Whereas a Scout, like I said, you only got 130 something miles before you're running out of fuel to 150 miles. So you're not going to really be on this bike for more than 2 hours at a time before you're coming in for a stretch anyway. So the suspension truly does hold up just fine for those purposes. And if you want to long-term this bike and long ride it, yes, you can. I mean, if you're more into the more bare bones riding machines like a Scout that has a little bit more old school feel to them with the shorter suspension travel and the traditional fork and everything that this bike comes with, this particular one being an Icon, it does have ABS, but not all of them do. It gives you a pretty dang good old school feel to ride one of these machines. And I really appreciate that motorcycle and this motorcycle for that action, because it reminds me of good old days. Is it a lot smoother and a lot more powerful than everything that's come out, you know, in the last 30 years ago or whatever? Of course there's going to be some differences there, and there's actually going to be some bikes from that era that are more powerful and more comfortable than this bike. But this bike feels like it's from that era and would get along with a lot of the top speeds and a lot of the speeds that those bikes could do, and it rides so well. It looks good too. I know this bike is dirty right now, and you know, it's been nothing but rainy kind of here in Oklahoma for the last few weeks, so I've been caught in rain. And here in Oklahoma, it not only rains, it dusts. I don't know why we can't get a combination of just rain. We have to add the dust to it, but it does. So you get a mud ball of a bike every time you ride one. I don't even live on a dirt road, and this is pretty muddy. You probably can't see it through the GoPro like I can. But it's one of those things where it's a motorcycle you could definitely start getting to be your own. There are several exhaust options, several seating options, bar options. Indian, of course, making the Scout Bobber 20 with the mini apes and stuff like that will bring these bars to about where I want them, actually. I think the mini apes are a smidge taller. Like I said, I'd like to have that little bit different deal there. I'll kind of step back here and you'll see that is the extended reach seat. You can tell the other one's a little bit thicker, and the reduced reach is way thicker to give you that forward motion. And like I said, these are in the stock position. There is an extended version that flips them around a little bit, and there is a reduced version, which the bobbers come with. Bobbers come with reduced versions. And another thing, if you want to know the differences between the big Scouts and stuff versus the Scout 60s, all the big Scouts have the chromed out heads and the chromed out parts, and they have that right there. I don't understand why Indian can't just put this on the Scout 60s, because it makes it look better to have something blocking all the electronics and stuff in the background versus just leaving them in the open. So everything comes blacked out on the 60 basically. And like I said, except for now, they used to come with the brown seats. That was also a distinguishing thing, where the 60s always had the black seats. And you can see there on the side that all chromed out look. Those big exhaust pipes that some people are like, what are you thinking? But that's actually not that bad. So that's what it looks like on the outside there. Yeah, it's really not a bad looking machine, that's for sure. Things that you get on a Scout that you simply don't get on a Sportster, like I said, except for the Roadster version, a longer suspension travel. Sure, the Sportster has a 1200 engine. It only produces maybe, at best, maybe 70 horsepower, where this one's coming at 100 horsepower with its liquid cooled engine at 1133 cc's. Another thing that you're going to get is throttle by wire. You're going to get the braided cable right out of the box. So this one does not have those, so you get that braided brake cable. Another thing on 2019 Plus is a little USB port that's hiding there. That's something else that you're going to get that you don't get with the Sportster at all. Sportster's been made for so long, it's about time for it to have something done to it, but they really haven't done anything with it in all these years, and it's kind of a sad deal. I'd like to see the Sportster get updated to try to take this on, and there's plenty of rumor with the VVT engine and everything that Harley's making that it's a thing. But then again, Indian themselves have filed patents for a VVT motorcycle engine, so everybody go VTEC. I'm just kidding. But that's just it. Harley at least looks like they might be doing something in the background for the Sportster. Indian's definitely doing something, because we know that there's going to be a Power Plus version with a fork-mounted fairing, not just the Challenger. We also know that the Sportster, we also know that the Scout is coming up for a cycle refresh. I mean, for goodness sake, this bike came out in 15. We've been 5 years, 6 years now in terms of model year. So we need to get this bad boy updated a little bit. So Indian, if you're listening, I think it wouldn't hurt to get a little bit longer travel suspension on this thing, just a little bit, 3.5 inches. You don't need too much, that way you don't ruin the look. And I would recommend an inverted fork, because this one, the one thing I've noticed about the Scout after owning one for a little bit, it does get a little bit warbly sometimes, because the fork I don't think it's quite enough for the bike that we got under me here. But it's not too bad. I mean, I don't mind the ride of this machine, and what I mean by warbly is at higher speeds you can feel it kind of wanting to travel a little bit on its own from bouncing, and it's basically getting a little bit of a hop off the ground, causing it to warble a little bit. So it's a little bit stiffened, or not enough travel or bottom out. And I know I'm heavier. Yes, I weigh around 200 pounds now. I'm a lot lighter of a Hedgehog than I used to be. But there's still some things I got to overcome. But yeah, this bike looks great. I mean, and it rides really well. But like I said, the ho-hums of this machine really truly are, it doesn't really get as long of a range as it needs to. And it doesn't quite have the suspension set for a good long ride, unless you're a little bit smaller. I've got my teammate, Honey Badger, that also has a full-size Scout. It's an 18 model, and she loves it quite a bit. It doesn't really bounce her as bad as it does me, because it doesn't need she doesn't weigh as much, and the preloads and all that stuff are better for her than it is me. And another thing too is, because she's so much lighter, she does actually get some pretty decent mileage out of it. We went on a 3.5 hour trip or so, and that did include a stop, but we went out and we stopped for a little bit, and then we came back a little bit, and then we filled it with gas. And hers, because she weighs nothing, averaged 68 miles per gallon on that roll. And that was a true test. We had a reset trip odometer, and when we started with a full tank, we got it down to a point, filled it back up, and did the math, and 68.08 is what it came up to. That was actually pretty dang impressive. Now for me and my riding style, because I ride like a hooligan and I like making this thing go stoplight to stoplight faster than everything else around it, I usually, and this is in city mostly, kind of mixed riding what I'm doing right now. So in city riding and in mini highway rides and stuff like that, I've seen about 48 miles per gallon so far. And usually miles per gallon stuff might get better as the bike loosens up and everything. I've noticed that on my Chieftain that has become a thing on it. And that's actually not a bad deal. So it's getting better and better on that one. It's actually getting close to the same mileage as this one, to be honest, right now. But I know the potential of this one because of my teammate's 68 miles per gallon. I mean, that was just impressive. Now, like I said, when you're riding this thing through the city, it is a great bike. It's narrow. You can lane split with it if it's legal in your area. It's not here in Oklahoma. But, sometimes every once in a while you have a situation where you got to kind of squeeze up, like a car broken down and some other things that I've had to squeeze through with. This bike does it with quite the ease. The handlebar position, like I said, I need it a little higher, but the mirrors on it are in good shape. You can see that they're nice and clear. We're currently in 6th gear. We're currently pulling around 2,400 RPM, 2,450 at about 45 miles an hour, like I said. So it's not really pulling that much RPM. This bike will rev faster and higher than the 111 Thunderstrokes because it has that ability. I have to say, I wish for adjustable levers. That'd be a nice thing to add to it. You got adjustable lever on the touring model. Why not just add it to the Scout? Give it a little bit more adjustability for the people out of the box. I mean, you guys seriously added the heated and cooled seat to the Roadmaster, and the price didn't really change from last year, considering how much the heated and cooled seat cost just by itself. But the Roadmaster stayed the same price as it did with the color option plus the seat. So that's actually an impressive add-on when you think about it. And of course some mild tweaks here and there, but still, if you guys could do that and add that little bit of difference, I think it wouldn't hurt you guys to flip the fork upside down on a Scout, to change up the suspension a little bit, and to add maybe some cruise control as well. Because if the FTR has it, why doesn't this one have it, or make it an option? And also add those adjustable levers as well. But I don't necessarily mind not having cruise control. I really don't care for it. You know, I use it on my bike mostly so I don't speed. And I don't really need it on any other bike I've ever had. I mean, for Pete's sake, I don't have it on my 79 Honda. That thing's not even capable of such a thing, except if you put a throttle lock on it, and nobody likes suicide cruise control, at least I don't. So if you got it, use it, and I used it, and I don't mind it. I just, like I said, I mostly use it to not speed because I don't want to get in trouble. But like I said, it's fun to take off on this little Scout because it's got quite a bit of pep. It really does feel light on its feet versus the Sportster and some of the other bikes in its class. I mean, definitely it is one of the more expensive in its class. I mean, these bikes start around 11 grand, you know, in the full-size versions, whereas the 60s versions start around 10 grand. That's a pretty big chunk of change. And like I said, is it worth it? To me, these bikes very much well are. I know the Scout 60 has a 5-speed and lacking some trim bits. I wish they would go ahead and add the 6-speed into it. I don't see why they wouldn't, because it's not even that much of an extra cost, especially adding the trim piece. What on earth does that cost them? $20? You know, I don't know how you're not making a profit margin without a trim piece on the 60, but I really do wish that they would update the Scout line and modernize it just a little bit more. They can keep the twin shocks in the back at this time. I'm not really concerned with mono shock or anything like that. I like the old school ride feel. I just want it to be an old school hot rod feel. You know, putting that inverted fork on there, giving it a little bit more suspension, a little bit less weight for the suspension to deal with and everything whenever it's that way. And also, maybe, just maybe, pull it off the ground a little bit. Because this bike, I drag foot pegs all the time with this thing. This bike actually here has pretty much well worn out the little lane or lean indication devices, because I do nothing but drag them through most every turn, because it doesn't really have the greatest of lean angles. It's about 26 degrees, but once again, this is one of those cruising machines, and it's more of that straight line prowess that it has. It's fun and exciting. It's just getting to the turn, it's, oh gosh. But to be honest, the Sportsters really are in the same boat. They don't have the turning angle that one would wish to have with a bike that has the name Sportster. But at least this one here, the fit and finish on it is quite amazing, and you don't get rattled to death while you're sitting on it either. This little engine just sits there and you can feel it, but Look how stable that mirror is. On the Sportster, everything over here would be bouncing. Even if I take my hand off it, you'll see a little bit of vibration coming through the handlebars. I know some people don't like the handlebar vibrations and things, and people will say, well, that will cause you to have pins and needles and all that fun stuff. Well, get a good gel glove. That'll knock it out. I mean, you could buy gear for the bike you got. You don't have to deal with the vibrations if you don't want to. Just get a good gel glove. Goodness sake, people, don't complain about your bike. Just change your glove. These have that nice gel hilt in them. And I don't really feel much through this thing at all, through these gloves at all, so these gloves are perfect for this. You can see this nice little evening cruise is going quite well. Like I said, it's just a fun little bike to get out and bomb around town with, and, you know, go a little bit out of your way as far as the gas tank will handle. So far I've got 77.8 miles, so I'm about halfway home when running out of fuel here. You know, another thing I now think about it, wouldn't be bad to add a gas gauge to it, you know, just a little digital thing across it there. That'd be nice. Something that can be seen that lets you know where it is, because, yeah, you know, if you got a modern enough machine, you might as well add a modern enough gauge cluster. But in reality, it gives you all the information you truly need. We still have a tachometer there, digital. We still have engine temperature here. All right, we still have engine temperature here. We still have battery current voltage here, making sure charging system is working right. And we have our regular odometer, we have our clock, and of course we have a gear indication as well on this particular bike. Everything in the housing is pretty pretty standard. You got your brights, you got your basically that's an indication light. It's a little triangle with exclamation point. Say the bike shuts down for some sort of an emergency reason, you know, like crawl mode, or you put your side stand down or anything of that nature. If it has to shut itself off, it's going to throw that light to say that there's a new code for you to have it read. Of course, you got your turn signal indication. You've got your service engine light, your ABS light, your fuel light, and neutral. And there's a side stand warning light in there as well. So it's got quite a bit of little information with some dummy lights in there, but, you know, simple. Don't mind simple. You can see I'm going over this nicely broken road here, and it's acting fine. Like I said, it's just an old school feel. There's nothing wrong with a good old school feel of a motorcycle, that's for sure. So after owning this bike for a little over a year now, we got it in May of 19, I do believe, is when we got it. May or April, May, June, somewhere in there. So it's been over a year regardless. And like I said, I don't really pick it up very often because it's not supposed to be my bike. But whenever I get a chance to, I'll actually like bombing around town on it because it's just so fun. It's a lot more agile than even my wife's old Vulcan S was, which is shocking. Pretty potent. Nice laid back ride. But you can flog it at the same time. Has a great pull on it. Good sound on it as well for a stock exhaust. And as it's getting older, I've noticed that it's getting a little bit more growl to it. So as it starts to settle in, the exhaust opens up a little bit. You can see top gear pull on it's really good. Getting up to the highway speed here. You can see this road has cracks and bumps and everything on it. You don't hear anything in my voice. Sure, you can feel a little bit, like I said, there, that little wobble is there from the hops and the bops. And like I said, I don't know if it's popping it off or bottoming out or what it's doing, but Need a little bit more front suspension on this thing to keep it from being so squirrely. Engine braking, fantastic. Downshifts, crisp. Owning this bike for this long, I've never found a false neutral. Like I said, I've put all 2,100 miles on this machine. And you can see, it loves to pick up speed, loves to have fun. I didn't really flog it there. That was not even half throttle, and it picks up speed nicely. Makes a good noise, great pull in all the gears. Transmission shifts smoothly. Like I said, no false neutrals have ever been found on this machine at all. And I've had machines, man, where false neutrals, you'd be fifth gear going to sixth gear, and suddenly, what are you doing? And that's not a good day. Harley Street. Anyway, I'll wake you up, I promise you. You can see this thing just bombs around. Of course, we do have a warmer day today, and good winds today too, but the heat on this machine whenever you're running around town, yeah, if you're sitting still, it'll start warming your legs up pretty decently. When you're off on the movement right now, the heat isn't really that bad at all. You actually do get a little bit more heat, interestingly enough, through the seat, but not the legs. So as you're riding, you kind of feel your bum warm up, but you know, it's not that terrifying. not the worst thing in the world. But yeah, the legs pretty much will stay fine. Unless you're sitting still, then it will crawl up your legs a little bit, especially if the fan kicks on. It will kick some of that air, and you'll feel some of it come back at you. But it's nothing to be afraid of. I don't know. Maybe I've just gotten so used to motorcycles and heat, and being that I've rode air cools and liquid cools and inverted V's and non-inverted V's and V-twins everywhere, and I felt more heat on some, and some are not that hot, and all this other stuff, and I ride all year round, so I'm always in the heat or always in the cold, and always appreciating the heat when it's cold and never feeling the heat after a certain point anyway. I guess I've just gotten so used to the heat that this does not bother me at all, and it doesn't bother my friend. It doesn't bother anybody else I know with a Scout either. They don't really report too much in the heat, except if sitting still. In motion, it has a way to shed it all pretty decently. This is just a lovely ride, though, and I mean, I can't ask more from a motorcycle. I really can't. This bike does everything that I want it to do. It gets me into town. It helps me carry stuff around. Of course, I have to carry a backpack because it doesn't come with bags or anything like that. And bags are a pretty expensive option, roughly around $1,500 to $1,800, depending on the bag choice. And of course, that's the Indian official bags. You can get some Vikings and some other things. And I'd love to try some Vikings out on this bike, and that way to give it some saddlebags and things. And they come around, you know, a little bit cheaper, somewhere around $600-700. Sometimes a little cheaper, depending on what you get, but definitely way less than the OEM style. So I have to say, you know, kind of the same thing with the Chieftain. Guys, watch your cost on your accessories and parts, because let's be honest here, you know it doesn't take that much to make them, and you really are garnering a huge profit off of that versus anything else. And I get that that's where you get a lot of your profit is in the aftermarket, or even in the you know, service bay and stuff like that. Now this bike has an incredible service interval, 10,000 miles per service. You get your first service done around 600 to 1,000 miles, 10,000 miles. Every service interval after that. That's insanity. Something people don't say enough. It's how far this bike can go. Their big twins don't do that. It's about 5,000 to 5,500. This bad boy, 10 grand on the service intervals. I can't complain about that. Shim under bucket valve adjustments do come eventually, but you know, easy to maintain, belt drive, light on its feet. Like I said, you can scrape pegs pretty quick. More scraping my feet there than I am anything else. Because because I had those really large feet. You can see how they stick off there. But whenever I'm down and dirty on this thing, I scrape pegs pretty good. It's just a fun, all around, can't ask really anything more. Small minor changes, give it about a ½ inch more suspension travel. If you can get a full 4 inches out of this bad boy, not ruin the look and the low seat, do it. I'm pretty sure there's somebody out there that's got a way to do that. Put a reservoir on it, something to give it the effect of that suspension. I mean, we're about to give it a good whirl here with this hump here. But that's, and like I said, the front too. I think the front needs to be a little bit beefier. And up. Pretty hard landing, as you guys saw there. But I didn't get thrown off the seat. And that's something that I know that hump would throw me off the seat on that daggum Sportster every day. I took that Sportster out here all the time. That's exactly what would happen, is I'd be going heave and hoeing over the seat. This one's quite a bit different. More refined, easier riding, hold speed. Overall, guys, it's just a fantastic, great entry level or getting back into motorcycling if you don't want to get something terribly small. The power is really easy to use in all sorts of ways, and it has quite impeccable power. We'll let that Toyota get a little bit further ahead. We'll have some fun here. I don't really have anybody behind me. See it squirreling out there. Get some tire squirrel going. Woohoo! Second gear almost tapping 70 miles an hour there. Just a fun dadgum machine, guys. Something that my old Sportster just never, ever had the ability to do. It does ride more like the Night Rod. No, it doesn't have the top speed of the Night Rod. No, it doesn't have the steering of the Night Rod either. The Night Rod had a little bit better clearance, 31 degrees on your turns and everything like that. But, I mean, this bike does really, really freaking well and rides superb. What more can you ask for except for a little bit more suspension, a little bit beefier suspension on the front, a little bit of niceties like the bars being a little bit taller, which, I mean, you can see they're down pretty low, and this is pretty loose. Unlike some other companies that really like shun you for trying to move your own handlebars and stuff, there's a lot of give there for the wiring and everything like that. But you can move these a little bit, a couple of inches here and there, and not have to change out your cabling or anything like that. So I might be able to raise that, but I need to keep it for the wife in the right position for her, instead of up and about there, which I would really prefer it to be. But just a little bit different ride, or just a little bit different height, a little bit longer. I think getting those pegs out just a little bit longer would be nice. Maybe doing what Kawasaki does with the Vulcan S with the Scout and allowing an ergo fit kind of deal, so that a new rider who doesn't want something incredibly big like a bagger or big naked or super naked or any of those, they don't want anything like that tremendous yet. This is a great, like I said, a great platform. Be able to slide that around in an easier way. Maybe not even an ergo fit system, but more of a, there's got to be a way to make all this stuff adjustable without really adding cost to the motorcycle. That'd be a cool idea. Having everything just kind of slide, just little things that you can pull and slide it, get it into a position that every rider can feel comfortable with. Like I said, the handlebars can already move. You know, heck, the Riker, you know, the Can-Am Riker has that sliding handlebar assembly. If they could do that, I mean, I'm pretty sure there's got to be a way to make these control surfaces slide around here just a little bit and make it where anybody could buy the bike, fit it to themselves, and set it and forget it. And if they sell it, then the next person can set it and forget it, and the next person. It would just add more to the or add more to the used market. It'd add more flavor, because you're not just adapting it to only that one person. You're giving it to everybody that can ride it and continue to sell it. So when somebody sells it to get their big bike, then the next person gets it and does it. And I mean, that would be a freaking cool idea. Sorry, I'm going off on a rant here again, or a ramble, or whatever you want to say, but you know, it's just coming out of the mind, it's coming out of the ride, and this is a bike that I love to ride. I've never hated this bike, can't find a reason to hate it. It does everything rather well, and just needs a few minor improvements here and there. That's all you got to say about it after having it for over a year. So bike does everything really well, just needs some minor improvements, maybe a little bit of drop in cost. But you still get a lot of motorcycle for what you're paying for, you really do. And it's an absolutely fun and exciting ride every time. I really appreciate this motorcycle. See how that thing just rips? I really appreciate this motorcycle and all that it does and all that it can achieve. And if you're a new rider, this is a lot of bike to grow into, but it's a bike that will treat you well from beginning to end. And heck, you don't even have to end it. Get your bigger bike and park it right next to this bike proudly, because you're not going to regret having this bike next to it either. So at any rate, this is the Rabid Hedgehog, and this has been the long-term review of the Indian Scout. This is 2019 model. And once again, this is the Icon variant, meaning it has the ABS and the nice paint job and all the extra stuff. And like I said, we're running the extended reach seat today for my 32-inch inseam 6-foot frame and all that good stuff. So that way we can enjoy the ride and just have a pleasurable experience. So at any rate, if you have any questions, put it in the comments below. And as always, keep that shiny side up, and we'll catch you on the next ride.
What's up, everybody? This is the Rabid Hedgehog. We once again want to thank you for watching our videos. Please like, share, subscribe today, and if you like what you see, mash that notification button so that way you get our latest videos and notifications live and on the spot. We also want to thank our dealership partners, Indian of Oklahoma City, House of Kawasaki, and Motovcycle Works Moto Guzzi, who is also our motorcycle mechanic. We want to thank them for allowing us to ride their rides. We are not paid in by any way by any manufacturer or dealer. We just get to be mad men and women with opinions. We also want to reach out to our sponsors and thank them. We have Law Tigers Motorcycle Lawyers. These motorcycle lawyers are mostly nationwide and can be reached 24/7 at lawtigers.com or 1-888-868-0208. We also want to thank our newest sponsor for gear and the things that you see us wearing, AGV Sport USA. They are out of agvsportusa.com in Flower Mound, Texas. We also want to thank Doug Crawford and AMS Oil for protecting our machines with the latest in lubrication technologies. He can be found at usasynthetics.com or 405-388-6170. And also for Derek Enloe and Associates Insurance Company, he can be found at 405-261-1010. Once again, everybody, keep that shiny side up, and we'll catch you on the next ride.